We're going to go back to our top story as we take a look through the papers. Solange Moujon is here with us. And Solange, you're covering the unrest in Brazil. What are the Brazilian papers saying about this siege that we saw in Brasilia?
Well, the front page of the Brazilian paper O Estadão de São Paulo is very clear today about what this was. It says it was an attack on democracy and an intolerable one at that. The paper illustrates this with a triptych of photographs, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary being ransacked. This is vandalism, pure and simple, says O Dia today. The Rio Daily explains how President Lula has vowed to find the perpetrators and haul them before the courts. Now, for Folha de São Paulo, it says that Brazilian security forces facilitated this unrest by their inaction. These accusations are also coupled with a condemnation of the rioters. And in an editorial, the Brazilian paper calls them a band of idiots, noting that these thousands of criminals do not have the support of a majority of Brazilians. This shall not pass. That is the headline today of A Tarde. Hailing from Lula's northeastern region, the paper is using the Brazilian version of Não Passarão to explain the security reinforcement. They explain that security reinforcements are in place and that democracy will prevail.
Quite a striking photo on that front page as well there, Solange. That's the Brazilian press, but this is also getting, of course, a lot of attention outside of Brazil.
Yeah, the riots in Brasilia are front page news across the globe today, as we see in La Stampa, the Italian paper. It says that this assault, this harassment, is a symptom of the virus of Trumpism. For the Swiss paper Le Temps, it says that this is the work of putschists, and it argues that actually the military is complicit, making this, it says, worse than the January 6th attacks by Trumpists. Now, the vast majority of news media are drawing parallels today between Trump and Washington, the Washington riots 2 years ago. There are surface-level similarities, as we see with this article from the New York Times. It says that Bolsonaro is, like Trump, holed up in Florida, and like Trump, he's waiting things out there as he's facing multiple investigations. Also, both men posted rather late messages calling for peace, but not outright condemning the violence. Now, on the analysis front, the BBC has a piece that says the exact same online rhetoric, election fraud conspiracy theories, and false reports by fringe groups are what got Bolsonaro and Trump supporters all riled up. But the blame still falls, according to the Washington Post, largely on Bolsonaro. It explains that throughout his presidency, he prophesied this, that he said in the future violence would follow if he was no longer president.
And Solange, cartoonists have been pretty quick to find inspiration in some of these impressive images. Show us some of the editorial cartoons you found.
Yeah, in regard to Brazilian democracy being trampled on, let's begin with this cartoon by Thiago Lucas. It has a woman being trampled. She represents democracy being trampled and walked over by Bolsonaro supporters. And if I zoom in a bit, you can see they all have a bit of blood on their hands and on their bodies. Now, the cartoonist Zach has Bolsonaro dousing democracy in petrol while his supporters hold a match to it. The Trump parallels are also being drawn today, as we see in this cartoon by the Cartoon Movement. You have this is a cartoon called Master and Dog by Miguel Morales Madrigal, and you have Trump saying good dog to a swastika wearing dog like Bolsonaro. And then finally, there's also from the Cartoon Movement, there's Emmanuel de Rosso's cartoon entitled Stop the Steal, where you have a face-painted horn and fur-wearing hat Bolsonaro that has angered the Christ the Redeemer. His hands are not wide open in welcome, but rather clenched in anger.
A very apt visual representation of those parallels. Finally, Solange, you have one more article for us to end on somewhat of a more hopeful note about all of this.
Yeah, it's important to note that this was written before the Brasilia riots, but it is apropos nonetheless. Last week, The Guardian wrote that 2023 could be a good year to further squash populism. It goes through a recent report on populism, be it on the left or on the right, and it found that it has actually reached a 20-year low, and this is due to populist leaders like Bolsonaro losing their elections or being ousted. So the number of people in the world that no longer live under populist regimes has fallen by 800 million, and much of that decline has actually happened in Latin America, and it is a trend, according to The Guardian, that could continue.
Let's hope that that trend does continue in 2023. Solange, thank you so much for that look through the papers. That's Solange Mougin with our press review.